Italy set a new record. There's chaos in Brazil. Will Salah stay at Liverpool? A transfer window wrap brought to you by our friends at cryptocurrency trading platform Bybit, and this week's Emoji Mondays. All coming up on today's OneFootball Daily News. As I'm your host Angelina Kelly, let's get into it. So first up, and Italy were held to another frustrating draw over the weekend as they drew with Switzerland in their World Cup qualifying game. However, they do have one thing to celebrate, as they have now broken the international undefeated record. Italy have now gone 36 games without a loss. Now, some news outlets were reporting that they have equalled a record, but UEFA have confirmed that they have surpassed it, which means that they have surpassed the Brazil team of 1993 to 96 and also that amazing Spain team of 2007 to 2009. So Italy's run did start back in 2018, and since then they have been able to remain undefeated through the Euro 2020 qualifiers, the Euro 2020 tournament itself, which of course they won, the Nations League, and now these World Cup qualifiers. And despite this absolutely phenomenal achievement, like I say, it was still a little bit of a frustrating result for them. It has now been 4 out of 5 of their last games that have gone 90 minutes that they have ended up with a draw. And ironically, it was actually Jorginho that could have got them the win, as he actually ended up missing a penalty. Not something that we're used to seeing Jorginho do, but despite this and the draw that they had earlier on in the week, they do still sit at the top of their qualifying group. So Italy's upcoming fixtures will be against the likes of Lithuania, Spain, Northern Ireland, Switzerland again, and it'll be interesting to see how long they can continue this run. And even if they don't manage to continue it for much longer, like I say, still an amazing achievement, and there needs to be so much respect put on this Italy team's name, especially when you consider that they didn't even qualify for the 2018 World Cup. Whereas now, if they do qualify for the 2022 World Cup, which I think it's pretty safe to say that they will, they are sure to be one of the favourites. And elsewhere in the World Cup qualifiers, Romelu Lukaku celebrated his 100th cap for Belgium with his 67th goal as they got a win over the Czech Republic. Meanwhile, Germany managed to find their ruthless edge again as they're at the top of Group J after beating Armenia 6-0. And also Spain managed to get back to winning ways as they got a 4-0 win over Georgia, and they're at the top of their group, although Sweden are just 1 point behind them. And meanwhile for England, they made it 5 wins out of 5 in their group as they got a 4-0 victory over Andorra. Gareth Southgate made 11 changes to his side, and there were some great goals from Jesse Lingard, Bukayo Saka, and of course Harry Kane. He has now scored 40 goals for England, the same amount as England legend Michael Owen, but actually he's played 26 games fewer than the player. And what this means for Kane now is that he is just 13 goals away from equaling Wayne Rooney's record of the most goals scored for the nation. So next up, and it was a pretty dramatic night in another World Cup qualifying game, this time in South America between Brazil and Argentina, as their game was actually suspended. It seemed only a few minutes after kickoff, Brazilian health officials actually stormed onto the pitch as they objected to 3 Argentinian players that were featuring in the game. So this intervention came just hours after Brazilian health officials did state that there were 4 players in Argentina's squad that had flown in from England that were supposed to quarantine. Allegedly, they haven't quarantined appropriately and that they need to be basically removed from Brazilian soil. So under Brazilian laws, if you are arriving from the UK and you've been in the UK for the last 14 days, then you must isolate for 14 days when you get to Brazil. Now, 4 Premier League players that will have made the flight will have been Aston Villa's Emiliano Buendia, Emiliano Martinez, and from Spurs, Giovanni Lo Celso and Christian Romero. And 3 of these players, apart from Buendia, all did feature in the starting lineup. On top of this, you've got Argentina's boss Lionel Scaloni and their captain Lionel Messi both seem to be stating that they were not told that these players couldn't feature. Then you've also got the Brazilian health officials that are saying that these players should have been in quarantine. It all seems pretty confusing, and what this looks like is it is a massive miscommunication between the 2 nations and the authorities involved. As at the end of the day, there were police at the stadium, there were police at the players' hotel, so if they weren't supposed to be going to the game, surely somebody prior to the game actually kicking off could have communicated this and avoided this absolute shambles. It must have been so frustrating for fans and players, and I think it was great that the Brazil national team did put on a bit of an impromptu open training session about an hour after the game had been stopped. Meanwhile, Lionel Messi had already swiftly led his teammates off the pitch, and reportedly their coaches' engines were running if they needed to make a quick departure. So with the game suspended, what does this actually mean? Will Argentina have to forfeit the game? Will Brazil get the win? Will they be able to rearrange it? Argentina do have a game against Bolivia Bolivia later on in the week, so they will be departing from Brazil anyway. So it'll be difficult to see how they can actually rearrange this. And all that needs to be said is that this has been such a frustrating situation, as at the end of the day, the world were robbed from seeing one of the greatest games, Brazil against Argentina, take place, and also seeing some of the greatest footballers in the world taking part in this game. So yeah, like I say, very frustrating, especially during a global pandemic when the government, governing bodies of football and nations should all be working together to try and resolve things, rather than getting their wires crossed and creating an absolute shambolic situation. So next up, I'm going to Liverpool now, where reportedly the club are in negotiations to try and get Mo Salah to sign a new contract. He's entering the final 2 years of his current contract that he signed in 2018, and reportedly the club and Salah's representatives are in discussions. So according to reports, Liverpool are really keen to reward Salah for how much he has achieved at the club. I mean, 127 goals in 206 appearances is pretty spectacular since his arrival, of course, for about £43 million back in 2017. Now, there were also some reports that stated that Salah wanted £500,000 a week from Liverpool, which reportedly isn't something that Liverpool would be able to offer him anyway, and this has now been said to be false. Now, of course, there did seem to be a few tensions, as of course when Salah did score against Norwich in the Premier League, he did tweet something along the lines of "I hope that they're watching," i.e. Liverpool, to give him a new contract. Jurgen Klopp has come out and stated that yes, there will be discussions and that he will update people when they have managed to negotiate something, and I just hope for all parties that they do actually manage to negotiate something, as Salah is such an important player in that Liverpool team. Even last season, when he wasn't 100% on top form, he still managed to bag some absolutely amazing goals and has been so important for this team in recent years, looking at everything that they've achieved. Of course, players like Jordan Henderson, Virgil van Dijk, Alisson Becker, etc. have all managed to sign on the dotted line. So hopefully Liverpool can add Salah to this, and this will hopefully ward off other clubs that may be interested in the player, as of course he has been linked with the likes of Real Madrid and Paris Saint-Germain as well. But looking at the signings that these teams will potentially make and also have already made, I'm not too sure if I could see him departing to either of those clubs, and hopefully for Premier League fans, we can keep Salah in the league, as like I say, he is such a massive player. And now we have our transfer window wrap, brought to you by our friends at cryptocurrency trading platform Bybit. And first up, Ajax's director has stated that their goalkeeper Andre Onana could be departing from the club next summer on a free transfer. Of course, Arsenal have been linked with the player previously, but it actually could be Inter Milan that are looking to get the player to sign. Meanwhile, for Everton's Colombian midfielder James Rodriguez, he could be looking at a move to Istanbul Başakşehir before the Turkish transfer window closes on Wednesday. Italian club Salernitana are allegedly set to announce Frank Ribery as their latest signing. And finally, Manchester City and Chelsea have both reportedly had their eye on 21-year-old Emerson Rodriguez, who plays for Millonarios in the Colombian league. And now we have Friday Feels. This is where some of you left your predictions in the comment section on Friday, and some of you did get them right. So well done to Patrick Matrix, as he did predict that Belgium would get a win over the Czech Republic. Sizwe Maboso did predict that Italy would get a draw, and Elken Jakimi did predict correctly that Arsenal in the Women's Super League would get a win over Chelsea. And now we have Emoji Mondays. This is where we put a few emojis on some of the weekend's action. And first up, best player, I'm actually going to go with Poland's Adam Buska, who stole the show as a substitute as he scored a hat-trick for Poland in their 7-1 victory over San Marino. And next, regarding craziest moment, I don't think there is another option but to go for that Brazil versus Argentina game that ended up being suspended. And regarding best win, I'm actually going to go for Arsenal's 3-2 win over Chelsea in the Women's Super League. Obviously, I predicted a Chelsea win. I think that everybody was quite surprised by how brilliant Arsenal really were. And of course, Vivian Miedema was on the score sheet for the side to prove that once again, she is one of the best female footballers in Europe. So that's everything for today's OneFootball Daily News. As always, thank you for watching, and I will see you all later.